Village of Wheeling regular meeting, Monday, January 21st is now called order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Here.
Here.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Hein informed the board he would not be here this evening, and President Abascato.
Here. Approval of the minutes for the meeting of December 17th.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Argyris, and I have a second already by Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
President Abascato.
Yes. Mr. Fondilas, any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Proclamations, none. Appointments, I'm asking for the approval of the appointment of Michael Murphy Sr. to the Board and Fire and Police Commission.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Here, second by Trustee Argyris. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
President Abascato.
Yes. Clerk Simpson, could we have the swearing in of Mr. Murphy? Yes. Good direction.
I'm Barry.
Mr. Murphy, this time, please. Could you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Michael Murphy,
I, Michael Murphy,
having been appointed to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners
have been appointed to the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners
in the Village of Wheeling,
in the Village of
in
Wheeling,
the County of Cook and Lake,
County of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Office of Board of Fire and Police Commission
of Office of Board and Fire and Police Commission
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I need your signature.
We welcome you to our family.
Thank you very much.
And our commissioners from the Fire and Police Commission are Mr. Kosak, Mr. Palicki, Mr. Hen, and Moran's in Florida, and Mr. Moran. So welcome to our family, and thank you for wanting to give back to our community, which makes it such a great place to live. Thank you. And we have a swearing in of a police sergeant.
Needs the support.
Can you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Christopher Hein,
I, Christopher Hyam,
having been appointed to the position of sergeant
having been appointed to the position of sergeant
in the Village of Wheeling,
in the Village of Wheeling,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of sergeant
of the office of sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
At this time, it's my honor to present now Sergeant Hyam with a star. His star number is going to be star 70, star 70, the first time it was ever issued. Congratulations, Sergeant. At this time, would you please introduce your family?
This is my daughter Taylor, my wife Jeanette in the white, and my mother Judy, and my father Paul.
Thank you.
She's a princess, huh? We will now take a 15-minute break for cake and coffee to congratulate all of those that are here tonight. So thank you. I don't need a motion.
Okay.
I don't need a motion. We need a motion to go for a 15-minute break, so moved by trustee Lang, second by trustee here. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Abiscato?
Yes. The Wheeling Board now convenes. And we have citizens' concerns and
We need a
comments.
motion.
Oh, we need a motion
So
to
moved.
reconvene. Motion made by trustee here, second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Juris? Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Tina Dagapo?
Good evening. I'm Christine Dolgopol, Dolgopol. I live at 216 Center Avenue here in town. I've lived here off and on since 1949. Actually, I've lived here 56 years. I'm very thankful to the board for finally understanding the issue we Center Avenue residents have had regarding parking as a result of inadequate parking in the Fresh Farms Shopping Center. And I'm very happy that you are considering 2-hour parking signs on Center Avenue. However, I'm most concerned that you will not extend that posting of 2 hours west of Willie Avenue up to Wheeling Avenue. My concern, fear, and probability is that employees of the center will then start parking their cars on Center west of Willie. Once the Fresh Farm employees started parking in the Solex lot, cars that had previously parked west of Center, west of Willie, moved up to east of Willie on Center, and they're still parking there right now. 2 in particular stand out: a gray Mercedes with the license plate Annika, a woman who used to park across the street from my house or on Wheeling Avenue. She's simply going to move back to Center between Willie and Wheeling because I believe she works in the center, the south end of the center. I can't see her walking in her high heels from the Solex lot to wherever her shop is located. There is another, a gray van, I believe it's a Rendezvous. It moved up east of Willie to where he was, from where he was west of Willie. He or she could easily move back to that part of Center Street between Willie and Wheeling. At times there were cars west of Wheeling, and that could easily happen again. 3 of the 4 houses on the block of Center west of Willie have long driveways, which are set back from the street. Unfortunately, my home was built in 1949, when there probably were no ordinances regarding setbacks, and it has a driveway very close to the street. If you park in my driveway, there's a violation because you're across the sidewalk. I ask you to please reconsider the decision not to post on Center west of Willie. It's easier to post now than propose an amendment to an ordinance and waste more time. If any one of us has company or a service vehicle that will need more than 2 hours of parking, we can simply call the police department, tell them about that. I've done that in the past. I am more than willing to pay for a parking pass, as a friend of mine had to do for her parents' home in West Rogers Park in similar circumstances. Whenever I went to visit her at her parents' home, I had to call her, let her know when I was coming. She'd meet me outside, give me a pass, and I would have to drive all over the neighborhood because it was a very congested area. I'm even willing to make my own sign and post it in the visiting vehicle. We just want our neighborhood back. So please, please listen to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Heber? George? You're next.
You're next, George.
Good evening. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fundraiser we're having for Chris Scanlon. I've known the Scanlon family for many years, back to when Walter used to stand out by Country Dairy there greeting everybody. He was with the original. He was the original Scanlon. Then Ted Scanlon, not known for a number of years. Chris's dad, Dave, was with the WAA, it was Wheeling Athletic Association, and that was back in the 70s, late 60s. And Dave was one of our players. So I've known Dave for a lot of years. Chris, kid 11 years old and having a brain tumor. Now, the Knights of Columbus and the Scanlon family are holding a fundraiser for Chris to help the family offset the hospital bills, which you know are going to accumulate. And for a grown-up, it's bad enough to have a cancer. But for an 11-year-old kid, it's traumatic. So we're having the fundraiser February 1st from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. All the spaghetti you can eat. We're going to have 3 different types of sauces: sausage, meatball, and without meat. And the cost is $10. That includes a salad, all the spaghetti you can eat, and it's going to be served. It's not going to be like when we had for Dave Bunda, people were in line. This is going to be served by I don't know how many different kids are going to be there serving food. It'd be a great thing and a great opportunity for people to come together. And if anybody wants tickets tonight, I think I got 5 or 6 left. Otherwise, you can purchase them at the door. The cost, excuse me, is $10, and it's everything you can eat: salad, coffee, dessert, and the pasta, naturally. I just want to bring up a quick thing with Dave Bunda. He was the last one we had a fundraiser for. He's been at Rochester now for 62 days, I think it is. He's doing good. He got, instead of getting the bone marrow, they were able to take his sister's stem cells and kill all Dave's immune system and put the stem cells into him. And he's been doing good. The numbers are not going up drastically. They're going up slow like they should. Because the faster they go up, the faster they go down. And as a matter of fact, Dave has not lost his sense of humor whatsoever. As a matter of fact, this weekend, they let him come to Wheeling. Him and his wife drove back to Wheeling here, and they spent the weekend at their house. And he was as happy as a jaybird. And so everybody who contributed to that, I thank them also. Because he is a good friend of mine. He's not an ex-Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Kruger?
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and village staff. I am Mary Kruger, and I live at 3215 Jackson Drive, Arlington Heights, Illinois, village of Wheeling proper. I'd like to make a couple comments tonight about items on the agenda. The first would be about item 13B on tonight's agenda regarding the amendment stopping, standing, and parking code specific to the residential neighborhood immediately adjacent to and surrounding the shopping center, which includes Fresh Farms. I am pleased to see the village leadership making significant progress to address and act on the issues facing our residents over there. But it is possible that the amendment might need to be tweaked to get it just right. I trust that once approved, the village police department as well as and especially the residents of the streets impacted by these new rules will continue to share their feedback about how well or not well the new system is working. Good news is just as necessary as bad news during a transition period towards success. I look forward to the updates. On item 13E, approving a second amended developer of record agreement with Urban R2 LLC for the Wicks redevelopment site, I admit that I struggled capturing my opinion about this request for extension. I did a quick and dirty history lesson for myself about the village's interaction with this developer, and Urban R2 was designated the exclusive developer of record just short of 2 years ago in February of 2011. In almost 2 years, All we really have is an approved concept plan, and based on what I've watched and read, a verbal declaration of a possible anchor and some possible restaurant tenants, 2 previous requests for extension, and the surprise of a potential $12 million GO bond when you almost terminated their exclusive status at the November 19th board meeting. That said, I hope this developer has been diligently working on more than just the term sheet that would be required before March 15th this year. Because as I see it, the developer dodged a bullet on November 19th and is still the exclusive developer on the project. Hopefully, we'll see shovels in the ground before another year goes by. Have a good meeting, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
That's it.
Staff reports. Sherry Herzog, Human Service Director.
Good evening. I just have a quick announcement regarding the senior citizen homestead exemption and the senior citizen assessment freeze exemption. I want to remind everyone that seniors can save up to $250 a year in property taxes and up to $750 when combined with the homeowner exemption. For the 2011 tax year, the applicant must have owned and occupied the property as of January 1st, 2011, and must have been 65 years of age or older during this year if you are applying. The applications should have been mailed to your home if you received this exemption last year. If you didn't, we do have them available at the Senior Center. Also, the senior freeze, this is for 2011 tax year as well. The applicant must have owned and occupied the home on January 1st, 2010 and January 1st, 2011, and have been responsible for taxes for both those years. And the income guidelines this year are anyone over 65 and earnings of $55,000 or less. That application would have been mailed at the same time. If you do have any questions, you can call the Senior Center at 847-459-2670. The applications are available there. They are also available online at the Cook County Assessor at www.cookcountyassessor.com. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Janik?
Good evening, Madam President. Community Development was apprised of a possible code violation on a property located at 110 West Palatine Road last week. We went out, inspected the property, found that there could be a violation relative to stormwater being transported from one property to another. We were keeping an eye on this. We've contacted the property owner. We've contacted the person who is operating a business there, and we're going to make sure that there is no violation that continues.
Thank you. Consent agenda?
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
So move.
Motion made by Trustee Juris.
Madam President, I'd like to remove 11C.
11C.
That would become 13H. And I'll second the motion.
Wait, 11C.
13H.
Right, comes 13H.
Did you first say?
Yes.
Motion was made by Trustee Juris, second by Trustee Brady, removing C, and it will become H. Do we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Juris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Abiscato?
Yes. We'll open the public hearing now regarding the proposed renewal of a cable franchise agreement with Comcast of Illinois.
Oh, Mr. Rosen wants to speak.
Mr. Rosen,
Yes.
where are you?
He's right there.
Yes, we had a good evening. Anyway, I just here as a citizen, and I understand there's not much that we can do regarding the pricing of Comcast, even though every year they seem to increase our bill 5 to 10%. What I would hope, at least from the seniors, as we did with Waste Management, that perhaps you might be able to convince them to give the seniors a break, as we did with Waste Management. I think that would be a good idea. But most importantly, I know how important it is at our village, because we see this all this time, how important it is for our village to be upkeep ourselves as far as looking good. The Comcast people, I think, started here for about 25 years ago. And I know I've got some pictures. They've got some of our equipment back in my yard. And I know they have their equipment all over the place. And I don't think yet, even though I've asked them to, have they come by to fix it up. The thing is rusting out. It's sometimes bent over. There's sometimes wires hanging out. I would like if, when you do tell Comcast that you want to keep them here, that they do something about their equipment. At least they're out, the equipment that it looks for. And I brought some photos here so you could see what I'm looking at in the back of my yard. And believe me, this is good compared to some of the neighbors that I've talked to as far as what they're getting as far as rust and the kind of the looks that you're getting. And again, it's all wheeling, and it's something that they should be taking care of because that's what we're paying for, is for them to paint a box or make sure that these boxes are in good working order, at least something aesthetically nice. You can say, we'll not bury the wires down underneath the ground, which would be ideal. So I'm going to leave this with you to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in closing, I hope, besides that, at least I hope that maybe you can convince them to bring their prices down. That would be nice, but at least for the seniors, as we did with Waste Management. And with that, I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
You or me?
Pardon me?
Well, I was going to give a little background to what we're doing. The village has an existing franchise agreement that has been in place for the past 15 years with Comcast, and that expires, I believe, September of 2014. And part of the process of having a franchise agreement is the requirement for a public hearing, which is what we are now going through. And the idea is, just like Mr. Rosen has expressed, is an opportunity for the public to discuss service issues with Comcast so that they can hear what those concerns are, so we can hear what those concerns are, and then go into negotiations with them as we look to extend their agreement. There is a standard template agreement that has been used by the Mayor's Caucus that is becoming the norm. We've looked at that agreement. That agreement has been provided to you, and we're going to base our discussions off of that agreement as we move forward. So this process really is for both staff and the elected officials and Comcast to hear your concerns. In fact, we have Chris Nelson here from Comcast, not necessarily to debate and negotiate anything, but to hear your concerns today so that we can take that information and move forward. Trustee Argyris, I don't know if you had a question or...
Did you have something for the public hearing?
Well, just a comment, regarding what Mr. Rosen said. It has been something that's been discussed for years, but also I think the biggest concern that I have is the lack of customer service, the poor customer service that Comcast gives. Anybody you talk to, I mean, I used to be with them. I left them because it was that bad. I'll be honest with you, it was. And he's right, 10-15% increases every year. Customer service stinks. And anybody you talk to that has it is really disgusted with it. So is there anything out there, a record of complaints or anything like that that we can use when we start negotiating and showing that, look, we have a problem here, our residents aren't happy. What are you doing to fix or rectify the problem? And I think that's a key component of when you're starting the negotiations here. Otherwise, rubber stamping a renewal is not acceptable anymore. It really isn't. There's other guys out there that want to come in. So I think we got to look at that.
Madam President?
Yes, trustee here.
As soon as he's done. Why don't you stand up here?
Well, this is still the public hearing.
Oh, I understand that.
I haven't closed the public hearing. Then you can,
Okay.
then we will go forward.
But
So
this
now
goes,
the
I
public-
piggyback on what was already said, and I'm glad you brought it up about the price. It seems like, I love that commercial you have out there now. It says, for your competition, they're nickel and diming you to death. And it seems like that's what Comcast is doing to their regular customers. Sure, you offer a wonderful service, and I would just like to see maybe some additional competition come into this town so we can regulate what the prices that you guys are charging everybody. You're absolutely right. It keeps going up and up and up. And what I look at is you base your price on our community, but you also have, you charge different prices for other communities. And I wonder how that comes about. And again, you can't answer it, I guess, we're in a public hearing, and then you can answer it afterwards. But that's one of the things. How do you base your price structure on a specific community? And then the lineup is different compared to what could be out in Lombard, Glendale Heights, and things like that. But these are things, you know, that people are looking at. And right now, you know, we only have AT&T, we have only Comcast, so or DirecTV if you want to go that route. But that's all I have to say. But I just hope you can work with us, and I have to tend to agree with my colleague on the board, just rubber stamping this and saying, here's another 20 years, go to it. But I just hope you just can talk to somebody or see how we can bring the cost down here in Wheeling. Thanks.
Do you have any other comments for the public hearing? We have no other comments. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang,
Second.
second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Abiscato?
Yes. Assistant Public Works Director Christine Bezier.
Well, I think Attorney Furlow wanted to say.
Well, I was wondering if Mr. Nelson wanted to come up and speak to any of this tonight as we start our negotiation process.
Well, we would. He said you wanted to talk.
Well, I had no comments.
Thank you.
That was a
Mr.
mistake
Nelson?
by the manager.
And Ms. Bezier, would you be there, please? Talking about a senior discount, we talked about it several years ago, and Comcast says that when we do negotiations that we can take a look at it. So that is number one on the board from, I'm going to say 4, 5, 6 years ago when we talked to Comcast to make the discount like with the garbage. So, Mr. Nelson, you've heard some of the complaints?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you have to present?
Okay, again, my name is Chris Nelson. I'm Manager of Government Regulatory Affairs for Comcast, and I appreciate the feedback. I think that's what's important about having a public hearing. Not every municipality may renew has a public hearing, so getting this feedback is important so that staff and I know what's top of mind as we're negotiating the renewal. As far as the franchise agreement, it's non-exclusive, so there really could be anyone who'd like to come in and build, whether or not we have a franchise or not. I know that Wide Open West has a state authorization to operate in Wheeling, but they have chosen not to build in the public right-of-way. We do have, obviously, AT&T is a wireline provider, Comcast, the dish companies, and there are more video providers such as Netflix, so we believe there is some competition. But we hear what you're saying about rates. We heard the issue about customer service, and certainly when we're with staff, we'd like to talk to them about that, and we can certainly bring an agreement forward to the board that contemplates all of that. As far as the lineups that you were talking about and the price differentials, it's an interesting facet of many cable companies converging into a couple. And those companies, like I believe Media One was the provider here in the mid to late 90s, they negotiated carriage agreements, they're called. So let's say they agree with ESPN to carry them at such and such a rate. That rate then informs the rate that's charged to the subscriber. As those legacy agreements expire and then they're renewed, you're going to see more of a convergence in terms of price. So there's going to be consistent pricing from Wheeling to Libertyville down to any other communities. And then the lineups will converge as well, because our intent is to have a single lineup. It's much easier for us to maintain that. But obviously we know what the concerns are, so this is helpful information.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, statements from the board?
Staff will work with Chris and his folks and come back to the board as soon as we have an agreement to present for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 13B, ordinance amending Chapter 9.10, stopping, standing, and parking of the Village of Wheeling Code in order to institute parking restrictions on Center Avenue, east of Willie Avenue, and Willie Avenue between Highland and Center Avenue.
Madam
Mr.
President.
Fondilis?
Thank you, Madam President. Before you this evening is an item that has been discussed previously. It is the creation of a parking ordinance that would restrict parking between 6 a.m. and 2 a.m. To only 2 hours within the parameters shown on the map. As you've heard here tonight, it seems that there is a thought of moving those borders west. Certainly that can be done simply by the request of the board this evening. Staff created these borders based on usage at the time with the thought of having the least negative impact to the community, knowing that we can always come back and extend the borders quite easily. Certainly that can be done this evening with the request of the board, and we can enact the ban starting tomorrow morning.
Trustee Adjuris had something?
Thanks. I totally agree. I think it's got to be extended west of Wheeling Avenue. It should go to at least to Wheeling Avenue, and I would even consider south on Wheeling Avenue too, because they're parking beyond there right now, well, before, west of Wheeling Avenue on Center. Who's to stop them to start going south on Wheeling Avenue? I mean, I would actually bring that around the curve to going south on Wheeling Avenue as well. But definitely from Wheeling Avenue going west on the south side of the street on Center. Extend that 2-hour parking limitation all the way down, because you know what? It is a problem, and it has been a problem.
Always.
I mean, if they parked west of Wheeling Avenue on Center, a half a block down on Center, closer to Trustee Brady's house over there, what's to stop them from just going around the corner and parking there? Go down south on Wheeling Avenue as well, as far as you can, at least for a few houses down there.
Trustee Vogel.
I agree. I think we have to extend it at least to Wheeling Avenue. Another block for them to walk isn't going to impede them from parking down there. And if it turns out that the off-site parking is working in the future better, and it turns out that it's an inconvenience for the residents, that can be changed quickly. So I'm for extending it.
Do we have any other comments?
No, I too would like to see it extended as well.
So we then will give direction, and we need to,
So move.
Second. To what?
we need to have consensus, and then to make the motion to change.
We could do a motion to amend the ordinance to include the change, and then a motion to approve as
Correct.
amended.
Right.
Yes. So that motion was, first we'll have the consensus.
Right, motion to amend the ordinance to include the restriction, is it to what street?
To Wheeling
To
Avenue.
Wheeling Avenue.
Yeah, that's the first motion.
So we'll make the motion. We don't need consensus?
No.
Thank you. Motion?
Second.
Motion made by trustee,
I made the motion.
trustee Adjuris,
I'll second.
and second by trustee Brady.
But I have one question, clarification, just real quick. I'm sorry, Madam President.
Not a problem.
What about the comment going south on Wheeling Avenue, around the corner there? I mean, they're parking beyond there now, or they used to. What's to stop them from parking on that corner there?
Nothing.
Nothing.
As long as they want to walk.
I think the 2-hour parking, at least a couple of houses going to the south of Center Street. I don't think it's a big deal.
Whatever works, I think, even if you go halfway down the block, whatever, as long as it's a permanent solution.
Right.
So you would like to extend it,
We can extend it. I would have no problems extending it south on Wheeling Avenue.
To what point? So we have some clarity.
that's,
You know, I
Well,
think,
what's the no parking from that intersection to begin with, 100 feet, 50 feet?
not even,
What's the,
up to the sidewalk.
I mean, they can't park to the intersection, they have to be back off. How far is that? How many feet?
15? About 15 feet.
If that-
15
It's
feet
only
from the
15?
intersection.
Are you talking Wheeling Avenue
Yes.
from Dundee?
No.
No,
South of Center.
South of
south of
Center.
center.
Now, don't forget visitors parking to those apartments,
Yeah,
No, this is south of Center.
That's north.
that's where the apartments
south
are.
of Center.
No, it's not. South of Center.
South of Center.
Yeah, the apartments
What
are there.
apartments? There's houses there.
No,
South of
there's,
Center, oh, south of Center. Oh,
On Wheeling Avenue, guys.
Yeah, that's north.
right,
You're looking
south
north.
is, oh, south.
Towards Bob's house.
Towards Bob's
what
house.
about north of Center?
Again, you got the problem there with the apartment buildings. They're parking there now.
But
They have been.
that would be closer to the shopping center than the Southton Center. Plus, they're going to be losing spaces when Dunkin' Donuts opens up.
Those are the X's at the top of the screen.
Yeah, you got the Dunkin' Donut there, and you got future restrictions there.
You know, it wouldn't take much to add this at a later date. If in fact people did start moving over, we move the signs with them. I don't know.
Trustee Lang.
Thank you. I was going to say the same thing. Let's just go right up to Wheeling right now, and if it's continued problem,
Going south, taking
we
over.
amend it.
There's people that live on that block that have single lane driveways, and they pull a car out in the morning and leave it on the street while they go to work, and they come home and put it away at night. What are they going to do now?
They're going to have to pull out their other car and
Pull it back.
the other car.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine,
That's what'll transpire.
that's fine.
So we have the motion on the floor. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes.
Item 13C.
No, now we need a motion to approve the ordinance as
Oh, I'm
amended.
Now we
sorry.
have to approve the
So
ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Agiris, second by
Brady.
trustee Brady. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes. And that's going to start tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody knows that?
Yes, ma'am. We will extend it to Wheeling Avenue, and the signs are ready to go up tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Item 13C, ordinance granting special use approval for an indoor sports and recreation facility within an existing industrial building at 650 Wheeling Road, docket number 2013-1.
Mr. Janik.
Thank you. This is an existing business in town. They're moving from Hintz Road to Wheeling Road. The space they want to take over is approximately 5,700 square feet. They are currently in a space that's approximately 3,500 square feet. It's a sports training facility, and the parking and other items are in conformance.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Heer, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes.
Item 13D, resolution ratifying the village manager's approval of a gasoline and diesel fuel fixed price master agreement.
Mr. Fondilis.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a cost-saving initiative that I had spoke about at our last meeting. This is ratifying a contract that I signed last week. Due to volatile gas prices, the fixed rate has yet to be determined. Superintendent Spratt believes that we should be able to lock those prices in this week. However, the contract remains as discussed last time and as before you tonight.
You have any questions, any comments? Do
So
I have a
moved.
motion? Motion made by trustee Agiris.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes.
Item 13E, ordinance approving a second amended developer of record agreement with Urban R2 LLC for the Wicks redevelopment site in the Town Center Tax Increment Financing District.
Mr. Ferrillo.
Thank you, Madam President. The agreement before the board amends the developer of record agreement to simplify the agreement to require that Urban R2 to remain the developer of record, reach agreement on a term sheet with the village board no later than March 15th. The term sheet will outline major components of the redevelopment agreement, such as the level of TIF incentive that the developer is seeking and that the village would approve, along with the manner of financing the development. Finally, given that this development has taken on some changes over the past year or two, the term sheet will define the scope of the development for the board. The idea being, which is what we talked about in December, that if this board and the developer cannot reach agreement on the major components for a redevelopment agreement, there will be little sense in moving forward with this developer.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Lobby and I are working on a term sheet that we'll bring to the board.
Trustee Link.
We asked this before, but is this, I'm going to ask again, is this enough time for these guys to finalize this?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been in touch with them, and they've been working. We've been working. It's hard to answer that question, because that's out of our control.
Are they comfortable with the amount of time?
Well, they were back in December.
So much time.
How much more time do we give them?
Madam President, if I might.
Trustee Brady.
Is any indication as to what range they're going to be looking at in the way of any incentives from us? Tax incentives or TIF funds or whatever?
We don't have comfortable numbers yet to bring you, but we will bring that to you over the course of the next couple of weeks as we continue to negotiate this.
Yeah, I hate to waste more time only to find out that when they do come in, they're going to ask for such an exorbitant amount, we're not going to give into it, and we've wasted several months.
Well, that's the idea behind this, is that we'll get to a term sheet which won't take a lot of effort and determine whether or not you're comfortable as a board.
Okay. All right, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Procedures.
Has staff seen any of the stuff that's listed on here that they're trying to get together here since December? Have you had any correspondence with these guys at all?
Not in final version. They are working on it, but not in a final version that can be presented, no.
I guess the problem that I have is, it's going on 2 years. 2 years. And we're talking term sheets now? And I can remember the big dance here and everything else, that we have our own monies, and we're not looking for TIF, and I think the TIF incentive at that time might have been the property itself. Now we're looking at millions. Where did this come from?
Where did what come from?
Well, all the change of plan here, and it just bothers me. We're almost at the end of January right now. It's been almost 2 months, 45 days, and I don't think staff has had any hard correspondence with these guys.
The term sheet idea came from this board in December. I mean, I raised it, and you liked it as a board.
Well, wait a minute, Jim. They raised it because all of a sudden we're going out for GO bonds of $12 million, right, and the game changed with these guys.
Well, the idea was that was a surprise to you as a board, and I thought at that point, let's get the terms down to see if there's something we can live with before we go forward. They have filled out a TIF application, but it does not have their TIF ask as of yet. We plan on bringing you bits and pieces of this as we go, rather than on March 15th, bring a term sheet to you to see if there may be an obstacle along the way. We may find out in 10 days that it's a number of a TIF incentive that under no circumstances would this board want to move forward with, okay, at which point we pull the plug.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you seen any letters of intent, solid lease commitments regarding that property and the users that want to go there?
I have not seen a solid letter of intent, as you're asking.
So this is the problem that I see here.
Yeah.
It's all hearsay stuff now, but we're going to ask for TIF dollars based on hearsay. That's the problem. That's the problem. How do you give a TIF incentive? How do you come up with a term sheet where you haven't seen, and I'm not blaming you, or them being excited to produce letters, solid letters of intent or lease up, commitments saying these guys are definitely coming here to town. And based on this, and based on what we want to do here on a site plan, and based on the numbers that we need to make this happen, then I could see a term sheet. Then I could see some solid numbers and working with Lowry. We're going to spend money now with Lowry and everything else. Are we going to get reimbursed from this developer?
Typically, we do not.
And then your time and everything else, and staff's time? I mean, I'm telling you something. This comes back March 15th. If there's one thing missing, in my opinion, it's dead with me. They're done.
Understood.
They're totally done. And they better, relay the message. You better come here with solid, concrete stuff other than wanting money.
And I think what you raise is a good point to include in a term sheet, that at the time of the RDA being executed, we're going to require proof of users, letters of intent. Because the last thing I think this board wants to see is an RDA that has timeframes in it that might go out 6 months, 8 months.
6 years.
And at the end of that, have it come back where the developer can't deliver.
Right.
It's a very good point to include actually in a term sheet currently.
Otherwise, I think the best thing the board can do, along with staff, is put this thing back on the market again and see what's out there. It's a different world now.
I think when we talked before this, that they wouldn't get TIF dollars unless they brought us concrete evidence that they had someone beside, they kept saying the theater, but that's not what we were looking for.
No.
I agree.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion?
Need a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by trustee Lang,
Second.
second by trustee Adjuris. Roll call, please.
Trustee Adjuris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans-Scotto?
Yes.
Item 13F has two resolutions authorizing acceptance of suburban purchasing cooperative contracts for the purchase of police vehicles. Item 13F1, resolution authorizing acceptance of the suburban purchasing cooperative's contract for the purchase of one 2013 Dodge Charger police sedan.
Chief Benson.
Yes, both these before you on the agenda are replacement vehicles for the police departments, vehicles P43, P49, P51, and I-90. I work very closely with Fleet Superintendent Chuck Spratt to determine the need for the patrol vehicles in the future, which will be the Explorer SUVs, and the Dodge Charger will be an administrative replacement for A32.
So
Any question?
Second.
Question, please?
Yes, question by trustee Brady.
Briefly, certainly we have the money in the SURF fund to pay for these, and that isn't a question. And certainly we want to keep top-notch equipment on the street, but just recently we did our budget for this year, and it was mentioned several times that we still had these leftover Crown Victorias that we purchased last year, and nobody said that they were on the street already.
Yeah.
How long have they been on the street?
Over the last actually it was 2 years ago, it was 2011 that the Crown Victoria was discontinued by the Ford Motor Company. And over the past 2 years, we've been putting those one at a time into fleet as the cars have been coming up to and over 100,000 miles, and as the replacement has been determined by Fleet Services. There is one left that is ready to be put together to go into the street fleet, and that will exhaust the extra cars we purchased in 2011. And I can tell you this is the second year in a row that we're requesting less vehicles than were planned for in the SURF fund because of that purchase in 2011.
Okay, and one other question, and it's just for my own notification. SUVs in replace of a patrol car or pursuit vehicle, whatever you want to call it, those are kind of rollover prone, aren't they?
Actually not. Fleet Superintendent Chuck Spratt has done a lot of research, as have I. And last year, if you remember, we did purchase one for the supervisor's replacement vehicle. Over the last 2 years, since we've known that the Crown vehicles are going to be discontinued, we've carefully studied the benefits, and we don't see rollover as being a factor, a negative factor. And we do see the all-wheel drive, the better gas mileage, and again, because of that purchase in 2011, it gave us the luxury of not having to make this decision too soon, and we've had the last year to evaluate the police package SUV Ford Explorer, and it's worked out very well.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You have a question?
No, I'm
Trustee
just a
Here.
second on Dean's motion.
Trustee Adjuris made the motion, and trustee Here second the motion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Adjuris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans-Scotto?
Yes.
Item 13F2, resolution authorizing acceptance of the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative's contract number 122 for the purchase of 3 Ford utility police interceptors from Curie Motors.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion made by trustee Here, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Adjuris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans-Scotto?
Yes.
Item 13G, discussion regarding restated redevelopment agreement for the Prairie Park development.
Mr. Fendelis.
Thank you, Madam President. Last week, I received a letter from the developer, which has been passed along to the board, seeking to discuss an opportunity to renegotiate or look at, again, the existing development agreement that has been in place for the last 2.5 years for the Prairie Park development. A little bit of history, and I'll introduce Mr. Smith to speak on his behalf. We do have an existing restated development agreement that concerns the payment of TIF dollars. The initial payment was $2.5 million up front that paid for a clubhouse. The clubhouse was built, completed, and our funds were paid to erect that building. The remaining monies were scheduled to be paid with a formula that reimbursed the bank a certain amount of money per closing within a stated amount of time. It was 24 months, I believe, was the first part of the agreement for a total length of 48 months total. The reimbursement, again, was tied to the closing and occupancy of units, and it would provide reimbursement monies, TIF monies, back to the bank for each unit sold. The letter before you this evening is asking to look at the remaining monies, which total $3.5 million, to be paid up front. That would obviously be a substantial deviation from the existing agreement. And as a little bit of history, that $3.5 million, while it is TIF money, that TIF, the North TIF, has a current balance of $1.8 million as a fund balance, which would mean we would have to borrow from other TIFs in order to even consider making a one-time payment. I can provide much more detail if the board wishes, but perhaps the best thing to do is ask Mr. Smith to come forward and speak to his request.
Thank you, Mr. Spondalis, for getting this to the board. As I had mentioned, the lender has been pushing to get a forbearance agreement, which we don't have right now. This, I guess it's more of an FYI than an actual request at this point. We're still looking into negotiating this with the lender. As I stated in the memo, those were some of the reasons for my ask about this. Over the last year, there were some payments that were to be paid out, and we've kind of held off on those payments till we could possibly get to a longer agreement, forbearance agreement with them. We closed 11 units last year. Currently, there are 4 units that are in different stages of being prepared to close. Those 4 units should close in the next 30 to 45 days. We are also pending our 4 contracts that we're working on. December and January, depending on how we finish up here, could turn out to be some of the best months we've had since we've started this project. I think that things have really turned around for us there. What we saw as the market deteriorated, we were still selling units about a year after the market had really shut down in the area. I think that what we're seeing now is that we're coming out maybe a year in advance. I think there's a possibility, and I'm usually pretty conservative with it, that we could look at 24 to 30 units this year with approximately, I think, 60-ish units, 62 units left. The opportunity, this ask, if we cannot come to an agreement to where it benefits the village, Smith family, and obviously the note holder, then it would be pooled. And we certainly wouldn't want that up front. But we have the ability, as things march on with some of the properties, which are tied to it, frankly, to be able to save money down the road as hopefully redevelopment takes place on those. And I think within probably by the end of the month, we'll have some further information for you that you could look at that would probably be beneficial for your decision making. I just didn't want it to be caught cold turkey, or if this is something that you wouldn't even consider that it's out there. But I am in the process of working with the lender to see where we can go with this, and I think if we can work something out, it would be in great benefit to the, community, to us, and to the lender. That's where I stand on it.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, any comments?
I have a question for
Yes.
John. If we let this ride out the way the original agreement was set up, would that TIF area, I want to say, would there be more funding in that area eventually with that, if this was allowed to ride out now as opposed to what's in it? How much of an increase would we?
Well, the only way the TIF would increase is if there's occupants in the buildings. So how those buildings become occupied, whether they are through the current ownership or should the bank foreclose, really, and yes, you can argue about the value of those units should there be a quote-unquote fire sale of those units. In the end, getting taxpayers on the tax rolls is the only way that TIF grows. So who owns the building is not necessarily the main concern of the Village of Wheeling. There are reasons why we would want to make sure that the developer is solid, but in the end, residence is the only way that we will increase that TIF.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Do you have any other statements?
Well, I guess the question I have is, when we did the amendment to the RDA, Mr. Ferrollo, what was the timeline on that $3.5 million? There was timelines on that, wasn't there?
The way it works is we passed the restated redevelopment agreement in September of 2010. Part of the $6 million reimbursement included funding that was used for the clubhouse. That's $2.5 million, which leaves $3.5 remaining. The $2.5 has been paid out and are related to TIF eligible expenses. The other $3.5, as Manager Sfondilis indicated, related to the closing of units. And part of the agreement involved negotiating a forbearance agreement with the lender at the time, MB Financial. That forbearance agreement provided that the lender would forbear for 25 months and allow Mr. Smith to continue in the ownership, provided that Mr. Smith sold 10 units in the first 18 months, which I don't think occurred. So as of March of 2012, the lender had the right to foreclose or take title to the property. The lender has never done that. We now know there's a new lender. Colony is the new lender who took over from MB. The significance of foreclosure for the village is that the agreement provides if the lender takes title, our obligations under the agreement terminate. We don't have to pay out any additional funding. So certainly as of March, the lender had the right to foreclose. It did not. And as of October of 2012, it had the right to foreclose. It has not yet, but I think the lender's making some noise about that, which is why Mark stands before us this evening. Ultimately, and I think this is your question, there's a 48-month time frame to pay the money out, which takes us from September of 2010 to September of 2014. The agreement provides that if thresholds have not been met by that time and there's no foreclosure, the agreement would terminate on its own accord. There's been about 11 units closed at approximately $30,000 per unit. So right now, there's a payout due of about $330,000 to what's called a dedicated account in the agreement. The dedicated account is defined as an account of the developers held by the lender to be used as essentially payment toward the loan. So that's a simple structure of the whole agreement.
So right now, you're in a negotiation stage with Colony.
I am.
Okay. And I think the direction you're looking at is is there a commitment from this village to do any uploaded funding? And I think it'd be a good idea to give a consensus to that. My problem with that is twofold. I think what we did in 2010 was a good thing for the residents there and for that development because you finished the infrastructure that you had designed and got a site plan approval for. So everybody was a winner on that deal. I think to help you with the forbearance thing with MB Financial was a good thing, spreading out the $3.5 million over a period of time based on sales. Remember, it was based on sales. You didn't sell, you didn't get. So I understand the village is holding about $330,000 possibly in a special account for that. To be honest with you, Mark, money's not there. And whatever monies are there, there's a lot of other projects in town that we got to be very conscious of what we prioritize. And to throw it all into one basket, I think there's a problem. I mean, if the bank is willing to take maybe an extension of some sort to give you more time to sell units based on our agreement, I'd be okay with that because, again, it's based on sales and we're giving back of what we're getting in the future. But to forfeit $3.5 million of some savings that we have right now with all these other projects on the table, I don't know how we can do that. I don't know how we would do that. So, again, what's disturbing to me in a little bit, our deals with Park Point, and there's a lot of unclarity that I see here too with other parcels being involved now that are different entities of corporations of some sort versus Smith, and then there's this other LLC and this LLC to the west and the 17 acres. I think that's got to get clear and give us some documentation on really what is tied up in that area there. Okay? I think we need to know, because reading your letter here is really the first I've heard of a lot of this stuff, and it just seems like there's a lot of unease of what these guys are tying you up with. You know what? In today's, believe me, MB sold that loan of yours to Colony at a discount. Let's be honest, okay? He took a haircut on that. Well, a lot of these lenders are taking haircuts on a lot of things today.
Right.
Okay? So it's about time that maybe Colony take a haircut in your advantage and see what you can negotiate with those guys.
Well, that's what I'm in the process.
But I think it's going to be very, and I can only speak for myself, Mark. And I'll tell you, if we were flush and had all the money in the world, I think there'd be other ways to doing it, but I'm being honest. And I think you need to know what you're dealt with tonight so you can sit down in good faith and negotiate something with these guys.
Right.
That was the idea for the discussion tonight. Trustee Brady, you have something?
Basically, a question, comment. You know, we all know that selling units is the key right here. The more you sell, the better we all are.
Right.
I heard something, I don't know if it's how important it is, how disturbing it is. About a week or so ago, somebody I know knows a person who lives in there was trying to sell their unit. And they had a buyer, and apparently the buyer could not buy the unit because the project is not FHA approved. I thought that was something that you did a long time ago. Is it or is it not?
It isn't right now. We have been working on that, though.
Because that would probably mean a lot, because I know a lot of people depend on FHA for their loans, and I'm sure that would certainly increase your sales and help the bank and everybody else.
So tonight the discussion is just a discussion, but some clarity and what direction we want to go into. So, Trustee Lang?
At this time, I would say keep the agreement as is.
Trustee Brady?
Yeah, I'd like to see, you know, I hear them out, but I agree with Trustee Argyris. We've got a lot of money sitting out there slated for other projects. And I don't know how much we can come across, if any, with this.
Trustee here.
Same.
Trustee Vogel?
Same.
Trustee Adjuris? Same. And myself the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 13H, resolution authorizing the waiver of competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement for professional services related to the preparation of color aerial photography and other related services.
Trustee Brady.
Thank you. Actually, two questions.
Trustee Brady, if I can interrupt for just a second and ask Luca to come from behind the curtain and come out just in case we need him.
Be nice to see him.
The curtain.
Hey, look.
It's the wizard. You're a wizard. Boy, you flew out of the curtain.
He was ready.
Just a man. This man knows all the answers You see, when they're in trouble, they call him out. Because
That's right.
I hope I have an answer, Trustee Brady.
Two questions. First one being, I find this kind of odd at this day and age with technology, satellites covering the sky. Why are we still taking aerial photographs out of airplanes now? When you can hook up to one of these satellites through these programs and get probably better pictures almost.
Unfortunately, I think that's where the difference is. The GIS consortium, which Village of Wheeling is part of, has resolution standards for these digital pictures. And this is the best service that the consortium as a whole has agreed upon. Yes, there are other alternatives out there, such as you mentioned. For example, you go to Google and you can turn on the aerial photo, but when you actually zoom in to the picture, you're going to see pixelation. And
Luca, if I can piggyback. Trustee Brady, I think that as Luca is mentioning, these photographs and GIS in general are all about measurement. As you know, GIS is the whole idea is to digitize and therefore quantize everything from infrastructure to physical assets that are in our village. And in order to do that, you need to have very specific, very high quality. It's not just photographs, it's the ability to measure. That's what these, while they are photos, they're it isn't like a picture. It's a much more detailed, much higher resolution scale of what exists on the ground.
I've heard that our government has the capability of reading the headlines of newspapers that people are reading on their patio. So there are satellites out there capable. I don't know if we can get access.
Well, that's exactly right.
That's the problem. It just seems strange. And why wasn't this part of the GIS quote in their $100 and some $1,000 yearly fee?
I'm sorry. The other item you see on the agenda tonight was for GIS staffing. What that is, you know, we were asked to think out of the box. That's one area where we actually outsource these services. And being part of the consortium, this firm, so we're talking about two different things now. We started about aerial photography, and now we're talking about the other item on the agenda. But that firm, Municipal GIS Partners, is hired by the consortium as an organization, and their services are spread among 20 members. So, for example, the numbers you saw in there are for a on-site person that comes here and works 7 out of 10 days to provide the GIS services. This other item that was on the agenda tonight is for the aerial photography only, and that is provided by a totally separate vendor. So we had to separate them out.
How often do we take these photographs?
Last year we skipped because of our budgetary constraints, but the rule, if you will, that the consortium uses on an annual basis, but it's not for the whole village. It's concentrated on certain areas of town that staff decides where we know that there were some changes, some development that was made in town, and we want to capture the changes, and so they can be brought into the GIS.
And one last item in reading this here, and I don't know, I worked in the construction industry my whole life, most of it in a supervisory position, where insurance was most important. I mean, we couldn't write a contract, do anything without proper insurance. And I find that all we're asking this company is to provide $1 million liability and property damage policy to fly a plane over our community and take these pictures. Now, airplane, unfortunately, knock on wood, it'll never happen. But if it did, it could cost a lot more than $1 million if a plane came down in our community. And I'm wondering why we're not asking for more insurance to cover this.
I wish I had an answer. I'll be happy to take this to the consortium level and ask them.
I don't know if the staff can look at that. Staff can look at that and see if that is enough coverage for, we're hiring this airplane to fly around the community.
Sure. We didn't negotiate this contract, but we can certainly look into it. I don't know. We can certainly look into it.
$1 million as a base, that's the very bottom of a request for liability insurance for any company, that would be involved in producing something or construction or anything, but something as high-tech and as potentially hazardous as an airplane flying over the community. Could be a lot more disastrous. Okay, but so we're going to be seeing this every year, just like pentamation? It'll never end?
Well, every now and then we could opt out of the aerial photography portion. It's just that we didn't do it last year, so the way staff approached it is we want to capture the changes that have been happening over the last 24 months.
We do have the whole village mapped out already, right?
Almost. And that's the reason we're flying, because we've had some little development in certain areas of town, and we want to capture that. And it's, as John said, down to the precise 3-inch resolution. So, but thank you for bringing that up about the insurance policy. As a member of the board at the GIS Consortium, I will take that up and mention it to them.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Well, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
If I may.
Trustee Jers.
I think you partially answered one of the questions. You think this is going to go on forever? I mean,
No, I don't think so.
How much more to this do we have to do? I mean, can't staff come up with a game plan maybe every other year or every 2 years based on development or new infrastructure that's put in place? I mean, prior to 2008, you had none of this. And how did you do it all these years? I mean, our town's only 7-8 square miles anyway.
We actually did do that, which is why you didn't see it last year.
Well, that was last year, but tonight we're approving over $150,000 in GIS stuff again. It's a lot.
Right, but as you said, to do it every other year and prioritize and try to streamline the process, yes, that's why we skipped last year.
The aerial photography portion, if I may, it's $27,000, and you're right. After a certain point, we shouldn't need to do it every year. We'll, together with Community Development and Public Works, we'll decide on maybe every 2-3 years. We fly once to get updates.
But for $27,000, what are they flying over? What specific infrastructure or development did the staff see fit to spend $27,000 to get an aerial view of? Do we know?
I don't have the specific ones, but I'll be happy to provide those afterwards. But there were areas that were identified by our engineering.
I know.
Yeah, there's a the map shown is the is the full project.
Don't we have a lot of that already?
Not all of it. You have to remember that GIS, and I think this goes back to perhaps your question before that when you said $127,000. The idea of the consortium is to outsource the service. Communities that have not participated in the consortium are employing up to 3 full-time employees just to do this work. So the value that the village is getting is exponential in being part of this consortium. The importance of GIS really is, and this is an overused term, but when you talk about the future of engineering and the future of mapping and the future of communication, if you've seen on our village website, the residents have access to an amazing amount of information that is all done through GIS.
John, I know, no doubt. No doubt, because prior to 5 years ago, we had none of it.
Correct.
And your old boss, Mr. Gray, used to keep files and folders and this and that to find everything. And Mr. Stavros here, who can find a box of water somewhere in the middle of the grass somewhere, because he remembered that's where it went. I understand that, but that's a lot of money every single year. Based on what I'm seeing come in, we're not making that many changes. That's what I'm saying. So all I'm saying is this: if staff could come up with a program that we do this every other year or every 2 years and prioritize, you know, we're going to brainstorm one day because we got a little development over here and we're going to spend $27,000 to take an aerial shot of it because we want to see what that developer did. I mean, what can we come up with a system? Because it's a lot of money every year. That's all I'm saying.
Certainly.
I have to say, though, that the reason it's not just new development, it's creating layers. And GIS goes from the infrastructure that's below the ground to the buildings that are on top of it. So not only are you taking pictures of the building, but you're also getting down to the details of the fire hydrants, which then the lines have to be traced. My question, though, is, are you saying every other year for aerial photography?
All I'm saying,
or for participation in GIS?
Part of the GIS itself, let's be honest, you're still using manpowers to do inventories of stuff throughout this community. Okay? It's not done by a computer or some satellite in the sky or some guy flying an airplane. You still physically have staff going out there, counting fire hydrants, doing this, counting trees, doing inventory of signs, doing this, doing that. So to make the argument your consortium is saving us man hours, well, I think it's created a lot of more work, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, John. It's a good thing because we need to do inventories on stuff like that. but you're still spending staff time on it.
But this isn't inventories. This is, you have a development coming into town. This is the engineering.
Sell me on
behind
it, John.
inventories.
Let's just get up with a program with it and just see what we can do to clean it up a little bit. It's a lot of money every year, 150 grand. And I'll second the motion, just to speed things around.
Motion made by trustee Brady, second by trustee Ayers. Roll call, please.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans?
Yes. Thank you, Lou. Do you have any official communication? We have none. Approval of bills January 3rd through January 16th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by trustee Vogel, second by trustee Lang.
Thank you.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans?
Yes, do I have a motion going to executive session to discuss the setting of a price for the sale or lease of property owned by the village, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the village, pending probable and/or imminent litigation, and review and approval of minutes of executive sessions lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Here, second by trustee Agiris. Roll call, please.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Evans?
Yes, and executive session will start at 10 minutes after 8.
Saw the swing.